1% better. What if you could just find a way to improve a few different things by 1%? Savings, investing, expenses, your bills, your mortgage, and you know what? Even your relationship as well. Find small victories every day. That's what we're going to be talking about today is how we can apply this methodology of a 1% process improvement across your life. We're going to focus in on savings rate as a really simple example based on a few different earnings scenarios. But I just thought it'd be interesting to kick it off and say, what I've been seeing a lot lately is people have been stuck at home due to what's going on, both in the economy and the overall sort of world of health, we'll call it. What we're seeing is a lot of folks are stepping up and looking at areas they can cut expenses because they're concerned for their jobs. And, that's a terrible thing to have to think about. But the reality is, maybe we can proactively find a way to do this today, whether we need to or not, and put ourselves in a better position for the future. And, you could apply this to things like, your savings goals if you're a Dave Ramsey's fan, or you could apply to being more aggressive in investing in the markets today while they're a little bit lower if you think that that's a good idea. So I'm going to actually jump into an Excel sheet in a few moments here and show you a few different scenarios, and then I'll actually build one out with you to see what we get for a result. But as always, this is purely for entertainment. We are not financial professionals giving advice, so please always do your own due diligence. Additionally, if you like what you're hearing, please hit that subscribe button and also give us a like. It really helps us out. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in here, and I'll preface it by saying we wanted to find sort of a middle ground from an income perspective to show this example. And what we're going to do is run through a baseline of someone who earns $750 a week, and they want to start thinking about saving. Now, this could be any format. It could be in a 401k. Excuse me. My allergies today, of course, right? This could be anything from a 401k to an IRA to just a general investment account. It could even be just putting some money into a savings account for a rainy day, or for the envelope stuffers out there, it could be for putting it towards sinking funds. So, really the goal of this exercise isn't to talk about ultimately where you're going to put it. It's just the idea of how we can start to find ways to increase our savings every week in a way that won't necessarily feel like a big impact to the way we live. And the way we like to do this is talk about what we said earlier was this 1% process improvement. The idea is that really small improvements across a number of areas or over a long period of time can really have a huge impact in both your life, the way you can live based on these small changes, and the overall long-term impact to your economic well-being. I think about this in terms of my own healthiness in a way is, if you wanted to get onto a treadmill for the first time and start to work towards being a healthier version of you, is the best way to do it to jump on for an hour at full speed and see how far and how long you can go? Of course, the answer is probably not. You might never jump on again. You could get hurt. It could be very discouraging as well. So just like our health or eating better, it's about making little decisions often and doing it in a way that makes us feel excited about it and comfortable with it. Maybe you jump on the treadmill for a few minutes at a slow walk, and then the next time, another few seconds or another minute or so. And that's sort of the same idea when it comes to finances, is that whether you're making $20,000 a year, $40,000 a year, $100,000+ a year, you can still make really small improvements based on percentages that won't feel like a lot coming out of your pocket. So without further ado, and rather than just hearing me talk about it, let me show you some examples of how we do this today. So I'm going to share my screen here in just a second. Okay, and here you go. Here you can see, this is a really simple Excel sheet I built. Now, look, I know there's all kinds of great formulas that we could leverage, and there's a lot of different pre-built calculators and things like that. But personally, I think it's good to have a baseline understanding of how to use this tool for financial information and inputs to give you a way to kind of get in here, learn how to do it in a really simple format, and be able to iterate and play with it as you go. So what you want to see up top here is, I always have a nice little title that gets me going here, so I remember what I was doing. And the key theme to this today is really how we can apply 1% to be better at everything we're doing. And, as it says, it might be a little silly, but 1% better really is 100% great. And you should be proud of everything you do and every step you take towards these long-term goals. So let's just kick this off here for a little bit of fun. And please, if there's other numbers you'd like to see, comment below. I'd love to build a scenario out and show it to you and what that would look like as well. And I'll respond back with that number. So let's just take your first example here. Let's talk about an individual who's earning $750 per week. And whether we want to talk about gross or net, it doesn't really matter. Like I said earlier, it's more about the idea of what the percentages can do and what it'll feel like when you're going through the process. So let's just start with a $750 per week, totaling to a $39,000 a year income. So what you can see I did here is we want to start out with a savings rate of 1%. But then every week we want to try to grow that 1% by 1%. So that first week off the $750 is going to be $7.50. So it doesn't sound like a ton of money. Maybe it's 2 cups of coffee. Maybe it's a little bit less getting a medium versus a large 2 or 3 times per week. Simple things. Shouldn't feel a lot of pain for doing this. And it's just a matter of getting to the motion of how do we find a way to easily get that $750 out of that $7.50 out of that $750 paycheck. And then, as I said, every week we want to grow this by 1%. And when you think about that, that seems minuscule, almost meaningless to some degree. But if you don't have a savings fund or you're sitting on high interest debt, this is a great way to think about it in terms of how much can we grow over the course of a year by just doing something really simple like adding 1% to our savings rate every week. So in this example, what we did was we looked at taking $7.50 out as your first payment and then adding 1% the next week. That brings us just up to $7.58. I know, right? 8 cents, it feels like nothing. But that 8 cents quickly turns into $7.65 and so on here. And I know you're going to see what's over here, so we'll get to that in a second. But just by doing that initial 1% pull for savings and adding 1% per week to that number, we end up over 52 weeks at $520.85, halfway to a $1,000 savings goal in 1 year in a relatively painless fashion. And that's really the goal here, is we want this to feel so easy and so attainable that anyone can do it at any income level. Now, I get it. There's 1,000 reasons why you won't be able to make this happen, or there's a lot of things that are more important. I totally understand that. What I would challenge back is, if you can't find a way with your current income set to deliver that 1% on 1%, see if there's another way you can find a way to generate a few more dollars per week. Could be anything. Could be doing a YouTube channel where you try to earn a few fans and have them follow you and check out some of the ads in your videos. It could be looking at a way of pulling in a source from doing a yard sale or selling some materials. And I don't mean to sound corny about it, but the idea here is just find a way to make it happen in the simplest format so that it's as less painful as possible for you. So as you saw, it's $750 per week at 1% initial savings rate and a 1% increase per week. You come up with over $500 per year of just savings. You can put that anywhere you want. And you know what? You throw that into a savings account when things are tight and you suddenly have an emergency. Now it's not a question of putting more money on a credit card. You know, $500 can go a long way. They can put you a set of tires, depending on the type of car, could be a repair to your home, or could help you out with rent in a really tough month. And this is all about doing it in a painless fashion where it's a few extra pennies a week. And over time, you don't even notice they're gone. Now, what I want to also do is show an example of someone who makes considerably more per week. So let's take an example of someone at $2,000 per week for a total of $104,000 per year. Obviously a big difference, and this person might be in a different place in life or have a different type of job. But oftentimes what we've seen across a number of statistics in our economy is people at all income levels are not saving enough, and most don't actually have, excuse me, even a small emergency fund put away. So in this example, we're doing the same thing. So I won't go into the deep details of it, but at $2,000 a week and $104K per year, we're starting off on that same kind of path of 1% growing by 1%. So you can see that first payment is $20. Week 2 is just 20 more cents. It's nothing. Those are 2 dimes, 4 nickels, 20 pennies. You can make it happen. And as we scroll down, you might have already seen and cheated and looked over. But the reality is you end up with close to $1,400 in extra savings. Now, if you're already contributing to a 401k at this level, keep doing that. That's great. But let's have this as a little bit extra on the side that you can potentially have for a rainy day or an extra emergency fund or cash on hand for when you need it. And you're never even going to notice it's gone. If you look at these small increases week to week, it just starts to feel like it's part of what comes out of your paycheck. You don't have to think twice. So if you're saying to yourself, yeah, this seems pretty easy, I can definitely do this, I wonder how we could step it up. That's what I want to hear. So let's say, for example, we take this original $750 per week, again, at the $39,000 per year. And rather than try to do a 1% with a 1%, we actually take it as a 2% initial with a 2% increase. Still not a huge amount of money, and still relatively painless if you can find small areas to improve other parts of your spending or your expense control during the week. And we start out here rather than, excuse me, that $750 in the beginning, but actually $15 from that first week. Now, of course, we're still going to have those small incremental gains every week where we go from 15 to 1530 to 1561 and so on. But what you'll see is by just changing to a slight increase of 2% in the beginning and only doubling to that 2% number every week, although it's really only a change of a few pennies or nickels or dimes here, by the end, where you would have originally been at $20, $520.85 saved over that year, now you actually bump way up to almost $1,400. And in fact, by doing a 2% with a 2% increase, you actually are beating the folks coming in at 104K per year by, granted a small amount, but heck, it's a hell of a lot of savings. It's a great thing for you to have there. Excuse me. So I thought maybe as a quick example, I want to show you what a 3% growing at, 3% would look like. So I have a feeling it's going to be pretty significant. So once again, we know this is your 39,000 here. Let's make everything look nice. In our first pass, and I'm gonna actually keep this really simple. And again, I had mentioned there's lots of ways to do this with formulas, or there might be pre-built calculators. I think it's a powerful thing to be able to look at your finances on a spreadsheet and be able to break it down in a way that works for you. So you can kind of play with it and iterate off those numbers. So let's just do this real simple. We're gonna take 750. We're gonna multiply it by 0.03, representing 3%. As you can see, that's $22.50 as that step one that you're going to pull out of there. Now, I get it. $22 might actually be quite a bit more to pull out from that original $7 we spoke about, and even this 15 here. So if things feel really tight, don't feel like you have to stick to these numbers. This is just more about the idea of how we can initially get you going and keep you on that track. So for that next week, what we want to do is we're going to now take this $22.50. We're going to multiply it by 1.03, representing a 3% increase from the previous week. Say, okay, well, that jumps up to 23.18. If you're able to make that 22.50 work in a relatively painless way, this shouldn't feel like much at this point. In fact, it starts to feel pretty familiar. And again, you might come down here and say, well, we were at 520.85 at 1%. We were at 13.92 at 2%. Where are we going to be at 3%? Well, we're going to jump right here and grab this little box and just start pulling down. And you can see like, wow, those numbers actually jump up quite a bit at 3%. And that's the idea, is that we can maintain this and really stay tight and find areas to cut. The more comfortable we get with the expenses being cut down, the more we want to start trying to apply to the savings model. So let's just keep going with this down as we go through the weeks. And you can see we're going to come down to 52 weeks here. By the end of it, we're actually up to $104.64 per week savings rate on that 750. Now, I get it. That might be a significant dollar amount. It might be really tough to do, but let's just say for the sake of argument, you worked really hard, you found a way to do it. Maybe you had a side hustle helping you out a little bit here, or delivered a few pizzas a week, or whatever works. But let's just take a look and see what this ends up coming out to. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit the sum button. We're gonna hit enter, and whoa, that's pretty great. You can now see that by doing 3% with a 3% weekly increase, you went from originally saving I am so sorry about the coughing. You originally went from saving $520 after a year, which is still a great thing to have in those savings accounts to make you feel good. Now you're actually saving close to $3,000 a year. That's real money that you can put towards real things, paying down a debt, working on those credit cards, throwing some money at the car, or helping you out with rent, or even better, having a really comfortable emergency fund. And that's really the goal here, is how do we continue this process improvement? So look, I won't belabor the point much further. When you think about your expenses and your savings rates, or your investing goals, or your long-term goal of the future, what's going to be the easiest way for you to do this? And for me, what it is to put everything down in a way that makes sense to me. I can see how it gets affected, and I can see the long-term value of what I'm doing. So when you think about process improvement, I want you to think about 1% better. Can you find 1, 2, 3 areas within your life, from both a income perspective, an expense perspective, and heck, even your personal life, and start applying just small percentages to those areas over a long period of time, and then see what it does for you. I'll give you an example. If I told my wife I love you 1% more, my life would be a heck of a lot better. So I'm going to have to work on that. And other than that, we really appreciate you watching the video today. And if you like what you see here, or there's other things you'd like to discover with us, let me know. I'd love to show you. So otherwise, again, please hit that like button if this was valuable, and have a great day.